Have you heard the phrase, you are what you eat? You know it?
That's true.
You know it well? Phrase, you are what you eat, in my experience, is not always said in the most positive way. Typically it's referred to, actually I don't really understand why we say it, really, you are what you eat. But the way that I understand it is it's reference to eating habits and lifestyle and all that. Thinking about our diet. The National Survey of Health federal government says that 2,000 calories a day is the standard diet for our calorie intake. And with our modern science, we understand that 2,000 calories is not really the exact thing. What you need compared to what you need and I need are all different things. But we form this medley, or this diet that we have. So when we say you are what you eat, it kind of refers more to your habits reveal your character. You may say what you do, but when you observe what you do, your true character comes out, your true relationship. And for someone like myself, who is comes from a family where the bloodline is like, I'm predestined for type 2 diabetes. It's just, I'm Italian, I've got pasta sauce for blood, so, it's just going to come out no matter how much I exercise, whatever, going to happen. But my diet, what I eat, what I put into my body, fuels me through my day, just like you guys. We all eat. We have to eat. What we choose to eat kind of can determine the outcome. What if the 2,000 calories, if it was like a bank account, and every time you ate, you were taking withdrawal? What if you thought of it that way, so that each time you're choosing something to eat, you're thinking about that balance, so that when you have the McDonald's triple cheeseburger that's 1,800 calories, well, shoot, you only have $200 left in the bank account, and you haven't even got past 10 a.m. Good luck. And you take that negative balance, and this is how we get to the point of gaining weight and losing weight. Why in the world are we talking about dieting and calories in church today? Stay with me. We are not just simple bodies. We are creatures created by God. Mind, body, and spirit. In the same way that we understand healthy dieting, healthy living, healthy habits for our body. It's such a perfect parallel. I would say a 1-to-1 parallel to talk about our spiritual diet. Jesus knew this. In fact, it's the whole story that's going on here, that's going on in John 6. This idea about hunger and satisfaction. I wonder in today's message if you can reflect on what your spiritual diet is. You are what you eat. What would that look like if it described your spiritual diet? You are what you spiritually eat. You are what you spiritually consume. It's an interesting thing. I go back into habits and withdrawal. One thing that I experience with my dieting and how I eat, my relationship with food, is that when I eat a lot of sugary stuff, then the next day after I stop eating sugary stuff, what am I hungry for? I want more sugar. I tried to quit caffeine once. I don't recommend that. The withdrawal experience of cutting caffeine from my life gave me headaches. I couldn't sleep well. But boy, this was during officer training school. After 30 days of no caffeine, I started sleeping better. I didn't wake up groggy anymore. And then that first time I had caffeine after 30 days, it felt great. It was just like a shot of lightning through my veins. We build up these tolerances in our diets and our habits. We set a normal. Whatever your normal is, that works for you. This isn't some time to talk about the healthy eating habits. Don't take it that way. This is just a time to think about what is your normal. Your, as we say in the medical world, baseline. Because you know you have a baseline because when you underperform from that baseline, you experience that withdrawal mindset that says, feed me, itch me, scratch me, until it goes away and you come back to that baseline. Whether it's coffee, whether it's carbs, whether it's sleep, whether it's coming to church, we have these habits, these baselines. And when you get out of whack, you feel out of sort. And when you're in line in that homeostasis, you feel comfortable. You feel balanced because you go back to that baseline. Do you see the parallel to the spiritual experience? Over the course of your life in discipleship, you have a spiritual baseline for your diet. You've established habits, principles, and practices that brings you here to get that recharge, to refill of your 2,000 calorie spiritual diet. And in the passage today, we learn about why we do that. Because Jesus says, "For the bread of God is that which comes down from heaven and gives life to the world." And Jesus says, "I am that bread of life. For whoever comes to me will never be hungry. And whoever believes in me will never be thirsty." Unfortunately, when he says this, the people are still thinking he's talking about actual thirst and actual hunger. Gosh dang it, Jesus, why can't you be more clear? Why do we have to work for this? Just be obvious about it. And that's the beauty of Christ, is that he's looking for folks who are truly interested in having this relationship compared to folks who just want their fire insurance. I'm the bread of life. If you consume me, you're never going to be hungry. You're never going to be thirsty again. Just choose Jesus. So in your spiritual diet, I'm wondering about how you feed your spirit. We can start with the baseline of understanding that Jesus is it, end all be all. Okay, belief in him is good enough. No thirst, no hunger. Great, sounds good. Okay, but how? Because simple belief and faith, that's great and all. But going back to that idea of the diet, you are what you eat. I'd like to challenge you, to present you to think about what you're doing outside of these hours. How are you dieting with the Lord? What is your eating habit of God's Spirit? Perhaps your baseline is the Sunday service, which is great. You're here, we're worshiping God together, we're taking communion, participating in the Lord's Supper, we're praying together, we're worshiping, we're singing, all amazing good things. That is enough to get you through the next 7 days. Praise be to God. But I'm wondering if you could set up some habits to get you through the week as well, so that when you're having the hard time, you can be ready to move, ready to act, that you're practiced in these things. In the same way in which we go to the gym, you cannot push 500 pounds in your first go around. You build up to it. The same is said for your spiritual disciplines, your spiritual dieting. Which is why actually I left Exodus 16 in today, because this really breaks it down pretty simple. When we go back to what Jesus is referring to in Exodus, this is the big takeaway. Then the Lord said to Moses, "I am going to rain down bread from heaven for you. And each day the people shall go out and gather enough for that day." Period. A lot of action words. Each day, the people will go out and gather. How do we go out and gather God's blessing, God's spiritual food in our lives? You're proving it here now today. You have gone out and you have gathered, and you are fulfilled and sustained because you believe that Jesus Christ did what he said, and the words in this book are true. that gets you through the next 7 days. And if this is your baseline, you're in a great place. But I wonder if you want to go a little bit deeper. Is there a way that you can go out each day, every day, to go out and gather the manna that is waiting for you? God says it here, I'm going to rain bread from heaven for you. God's going to put the blessing out there. God's going to give you the opportunity. He's going to put it out there. But in the end, we still must go out and gather God's blessing. We still must go out and gather that discipleship. Meaning we have to still wake up and open this book and read from it and let it feed our soul. We still have to set time aside to give it back to God and pray to Him and be with His Spirit. There's still the opportunity to see someone who's in need and to go out of your way for no reason other than out of love for your neighbor to help that person out. Or to comfort someone in a time of grief, to be with the sick, to give gifts to help with the poor and for the sustainment of the church. There are all these things, these opportunities, my friends, to feed your spiritual hunger. And my hope for you, and this is the guarantee, actually, is that as you build up your spiritual disciplines, the phrase, you are what you eat, your habits show your character, begins to increase, and suddenly life, no matter how difficult it becomes more manageable. Suddenly you're more ready to take on the things that get thrown on you. When the worries and stresses of life and the storms around you start raging, you can lean back to your baseline that you have established. That is more than just simply coming and going, but is the practice of going out and gathering that you, your independent self, can rely on. This is not a message of saying, hey, everybody, you need to do better. No. By the grace of God, we don't have to do better. Isn't that such good news? It's just the belief. You're good to go. I'm presenting the opportunity, the friendly, loving, Christian, brotherly reminder that there's a whole life that we have every day with an opportunity to be spiritually fed. And that if you set up those disciplines on a daily basis, I guarantee you, you will find more solace, you'll find more peace in the solace, more calm against the storm, greater strength amidst adversity, and above all, and this is my experience as being a chaplain, hope in the face of death. The greatest gift of all. It's the one thing that people with spirituality and a relationship with God have that no one else, no money, no position, no power, no accolades can ever guarantee. Hope in death. You're looking for the hope in death, hope in loss, hope in life. Well, you are what you eat. Your habits show your character. And within the pages of this book, and in our belief in the power of prayer and communal and corporate worship, we, as God's people, are able, empowered, and even commanded to go out and gather the bread of life that is waiting for us. And by simple faith, faith alone in Jesus Christ, who is the Son of God, who came and lived and died for all of us, so that we may live, we can participate in that communion. When we eat the bread and drink the cup, we're doing more than just simply participating. No, we are saying that we are part of the community of God. For Jesus said, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never be hungry. Whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. There's another part of this message that I want to talk about before I conclude, because I think it's important too. I started off with saying how we are more than just bodies. We are creatures, mind, body, spirit. And one of the things that we can experience within the health experience, is you do more calories than you need and you gain in circumferences, gaining fat. And if you go less, you go less. The experience of gaining this fat was also experience of spirit versus flesh. What if the 2,000 calorie diet was also a spiritual diet where you needed that every day? But instead of filling those 2,000 spiritual calories with God's Spirit, with the Word, with prayer, with the Bible, you fill it with other things, such as self-gratifying pleasures. You turn to external other attachments and you seek to find fulfillment of your spiritual hunger with something other than God. And then that becomes your baseline. And then when tragedy strikes and the golden calf proves itself to be just another idol, then what? And this is my warning, my caution for you, is that it's not only just a matter of having a spiritual discipline that prepares you to get closer with God and enjoy all the benefits. What I'm saying is that whether or not you do something with your spiritual diet, it still exists. And how you feed your spirit, you are what you eat. Will set you up to be able to be resilient in the midst of crisis, or amplify the suffering in those times. And I see that in the hospital as well. Faith in God gives us hope in death. The opposite is also true. Faith in something other than God, reliance on that, makes the suffering in death, the suffering in loss, the suffering in tragedy so much worse. I've held the screaming parents as they call out and cry because they don't realize, because they've forgotten. They've forgotten about where their hope lies. And they've lived a life of a spiritual diet in which they lose sight of fulfilling the spiritual hunger with God and God alone. So in this message, I want to give you hope, I want to give you challenge, and I want to give you the honest truth. Every day, you have an opportunity to fulfill your spiritual hunger. And every day that spiritual hunger exists. You're fulfilling it now with your daily habits. This is your baseline. You know when you're not at your baseline because you're at an unequal stance. My question is how much is your baseline relying on God and how much is it relying on you? You still have time to go to a better, more improved state that promises hope in death, joy in suffering, and all the great things in between in life. For Jesus says, I am the bread of life. You will never be hungry. You will never be thirsty with me. I'm not perfect, and I don't talk to you as if I have the perfect 2,000 calories. And if you do what I say to you, then today you too can be just perfect and awesome as I am. I am with you in this. This message is for me as much as it is for you. And in fact, I'm never going to be perfect. It's never going to be a perfect 2,000 calorie day of spiritual discipline where I wake up and I become a monk and all I do is read this Bible and all I do is pray and I throw all my clothes away and I run off into the wilderness and eat locusts and become like John the Baptist and do nothing else. That's not going to happen. Thanks be to God for the grace that comes. Again, we start with baseline. Belief and faith alone is all we need. Everything else just is a question of quality of life. If you're looking to improve that quality of life, Turn your faith and your spiritual hunger towards God in doing the ordinances that he has. Read the Bible, pray, come to worship, love people for goodness sake. Do those things rather than relying on the fleshy things of trying to self-gratify yourself through your physical hunger, and turn that physical hunger into spiritual hunger. You are what you eat. Reflect on those things. What are your habits? Can they be improved? Are they good? Let's celebrate that. Is there one area that you could do a little bit better at? Okay, great. Daily bread. God says, I will rain out manna from heaven. The blessing is out there, friends. It's out there today, and guess what? It's going to be there tomorrow. So if you fall short today, okay. Try again tomorrow. But remember, your actions will set that baseline. Which means if you stop gathering one day, and then say, oh, I'll just go the next day, and then you go the next day, then that becomes your habit. And that's what you become used to. And if you push yourself to go and gather the manna, and you don't get the spiritual fulfillment that you're looking for on day one, okay, that's fine too. Build that habit, and I promise you, you're going to build the rewards. Like planting the seeds in a garden, and putting the time and discipline into nurturing that garden. It will feed you. I am the bread of life. All who come to me will never be hungry and never be thirsty. It's not always easy to pick Jesus over ourselves, especially when ourselves is more hungry than our spirit. And if that's the case, let's now turn to God. Turn to God in prayer and ask him, Lord, to increase our spiritual hunger so that we can listen to it more than our flesh. Let's pray. Oh God, you are so good and great and merciful and loving. How incredible it is that we can come to you in prayer and trust and believe that, Lord, you hear us. Thank you for the gift of your Son, Jesus, who died and was raised so that we may have hope, eternal hope, by simple faith in you. Lord, as Christians in this room, we come together in that faith and say to you, God, increase our hunger for you. Increase our hunger for you and enable us, Lord, then to choose you to fulfill that hunger. Reveal within us, Lord, the things that we are doing to satisfy our spiritual hunger, so that we can become aware of them and then be empowered, Lord, to go and gather your blessing. Increase our trust and faith in you that these actions, God, will bring us closer to you, Lord. And above all, God, thank you for your love and for your forgiveness. So that when we fail, when we fall short, and when we do not do as you command, we can still trust in faith, knowing, Lord, that we have still been pardoned, and that there is nothing that we can do to separate us from your love. Amen.